Redditors with thin walls. What have you heard in your apartment? My old neighbor was a cam girl and I could hear absolutely everything she said in every single session for a good 4 months. Pretty much learned the names of her clients. I work from home, and it was always a gamble whenever I had to meet with someone virtually. This sounds like you could find out where she works pretty easily. Not that I would, but you know. It'd be great to pop in head chat going, hey neighbor, gonna head to the store. You need something from there? I come here when my neighbors vacuum. Our building tends to vacuum together as a result. I hear my upstairs neighbor and go, oh hey, I should vacuum, haven't done that in a while, and it's already noisy. Then my downstairs neighbor and my left hand neighbor start vacuuming. It's kinda hilarious. My right hand neighbor doesn't vacuum with us, but does sing opera while doing dishes. Do you ever run into your neighbors in the hall and be like, good vacuuming yesterday, huh? I once heard a former roommate laughing with his then girlfriend about how they're fucking me over on money. Turned out they were taking my utility portion and buying various games and alcohol. Instead of confronting them, I confirmed what they said with the utilities company. They hadn't paid the bill as 2 months, and I moved all my stuff out that day while they were at work. For good measure, I took myself off the lease and told them about the GF that had been there 6 months. Lost the battle, but you won the war. Fucking losers. Years ago I had an upstairs neighbor. At 2 AM every night, I would hear something sprint across the entire apartment. I realized 3 things. It was very fast, it took small strides, and it never deviated from its path. One day, I saw my neighbor outside and I said, I don't know how you have energy at 2 AM. He responded with, dude, I've been working the midnight to 8 AM shift for 15 years. Doesn't bother me at all. That night, I watched him leave his house, drive off, and waited 2 hours. At exactly 2 AM, I heard what sounded like 2 feet hit the floor in his bedroom, and the marathon started. A few weeks later, I see him outside. I tell him what I hear at night and he says, that's strange. No one has my keys. It's just me and my rabbit up there. Apostrophe. I lived on the second of 3 floors. Below me, there was a couple who scheduled their fights for Saturday night. You could hear the female absolutely berating the male, saying how he looked at another girl while they were out or something like that, and he would do nothing but resignedly respond in a monotone voice. I couldn't hear his side, it was very much like the teacher in Charlie Brown. Then, the morning after, without fail, they would have crazy loud macup sex. Above me was a drummer. Now I wouldn't mind it, except he practiced early and late, and never really got any better. It was painful. Luckily he was kicked out, and the punching bag guy took his place. At least he kept a consistent beat, even when it shook my entire apartment. I once heard an argument that went a little like this. Stop treating me like I'm stupid. You asked if seahorses were mammals. Jessica, they give live birth. Apostrophe. I actually manage an apartment complex where my office is surrounded by a 1-bedroom unit. The building is old and the walls are thin. The tenant that used to live in the unit was a quiet man, but would frequently sing beautiful opera music. His voice was amazing, and I loved it every time I heard him sing. Then one time I saw him in the halls, and made the mistake of asking if he was the one who sang these beautiful opera songs. His face turned red, but he confirmed that it was him. I told him that I always enjoyed it when I heard him sing, and that it would always brighten my day. Never should have said anything, because I never heard him sing again. I had a neighbor who was a professional opera singer. While chatting one day I made a comment about her singing. She got embarrassed and said she would start practicing in her bedroom or another location so as to not bother me. I had to all but beg her not to do such a thing as I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah girl, you know you want this dick, my college roommate. 3 kids later it's apparent she did, in fact, want it. I've heard and felt the neighbors upstairs having sex, and apparently they like to rearrange the furniture at least twice a week. My upstairs neighbors used to do the furniture moving thing. We both had studio apartments, and it was a huge mystery to me how they could move what sounded like a warehouse full of furniture for an hour in such a tiny place. William. We do not hit. His mom was visiting. He was 30. My upstairs neighbors taking turns zapping each other with a stun gun, hitting the floor, groaning in pain, and then laughing like Beavis and Butthead. I'm pretty sure I'd like your upstairs neighbors. I'd totally let myself be tased at least once. Heard the couple next door arguing. The wife was furious because she realized he had been cheating on her after she found out she had chlamydia. He tried to convince her that she must have been the unfaithful one. She still lives there. He doesn't. Similar one, my brother and I shared an apartment, and he told me one morning that the night before he had heard one of the male college students in the apartment above us having a heated discussion with what he assumes is the guy's girlfriend. He could only hear the guy's half of the conversation, but the line that most caught his attention was a very sincere, "I wouldn't have come in her mouth if I loved her." In our old apartment, our upstairs neighbor had extremely loud, theatrically enthusiastic sex in the middle of the day. The puzzle was that he would stop in the middle and we'd hear him walk to where the bathroom is, stay there for a minute or two, and then walk back and resume in the bedroom. It was the same pattern every time. We could never figure out what that was all about. Any ideas welcomed. An argument about money while I was doing the dishes. It ended with a slammed door and one of them on a piano, hitting the keys like a maniac. Some people read. Some people go get something to eat. Some people exercise. This motherfucker relieves stress by going crazy on a piano. Lol. Jenna. I love you. Jenna, no. Jenna. Damn it, put the knife down. At this point, both the apartments adjoining to Jenna's called the police. Jenna's husband decided to spend the night elsewhere. I lived next to a guy who took care of his disabled girlfriend. She stayed home with a nurse while he worked to support them and pay for her healthcare. Everyone really admired him for it. He used to get drunk and tell her that if she doesn't start putting out, he's gonna throw her ass out. I moved from far away, so I have a different state license plate than everyone else at the apartment complex. A couple of days ago I had my upstairs neighbor drunkenly ranting to his wife about what he thinks I'm up to. He's convinced that I'm on the run from something. I'm just in grad school, Mayo. Not in my house, but I travel a lot for work and stay in a lot of hotels. So far my favorite was hearing someone banging around in the shower for a while, then this exchange, loudly, "Hey, wash my balls." Louder, "Wash your own goddamn balls." Yelling, "Fuck you. Your pussy stinks." They got quiet after that, probably because they heard me howling with laughter and realized people could hear them. We stopped at a hotel for the night on a road trip and didn't realize how awful it was until we arrived. Since we were only going to be there 12 hours total, we decided just to stay. Oh man. This one woman would start screaming and arguing with someone else, talking in a calm voice. Every 30 minutes to an hour, she'd calm down, and then suddenly she'd be screaming again. Never again. I lived next to a couple some years ago, and they came home after a night out and started fighting about who was better at darts. I thought they were joking, but it got pretty heated. Doors were slammed. Edit, since people are asking. They were playing darts at the bar earlier that night. From what I could tell, they were playing as a team and the boyfriend wasn't pulling his weight and was super defensive about it. Had an off night. Allegedly, the girlfriend was mad he couldn't accept she was better. I'm no detective, but think they had some relationship issues bigger than darts. More what my neighbor heard. I'm a deep sleeper and was an even deeper sleeper as a teenager. My phone alarm was going off for 30 minutes and my neighbors could hear it through the walls. Assumed it was a burglar alarm and called the police. Waking up to the police banging on my door was confusing. I shared a wall with a Buddhist temple, so a lot of chanting and gonging. It was an awesome 5 years. 1. Lots of fucking. 2. My presumably constipated neighbor trying to poop. Aka 5 minutes of grunting and heavy breathing. 3. Someone snoring like what I can only describe as a diesel truck revving its engine. 4. A little girl practicing playing what I think was a violin every night for a while. 5. Someone blasting Middle Eastern music. I shazamed it and the song is called Mundian Tabach Kessex. What sounded like a woman forcing herself to puke with lots of crying. IDK if she had food poisoning or was bulimic or what. Edit. Apparently the song is Indian, not Middle Eastern. I honestly had no idea. My university accommodation had paper thin walls. You could hear people having sex 5 doors down. And I could hear my friend's music from even further away. Couple upstairs would argue frequently. One particular evening, they had an epic battle. It was hours long. About 2 hours into the argument, 11 PM on a weeknight, we heard the woman shout, "First of all, that was the moment we knew sleeping wouldn't be restful that night." Fuck you, man. If you don't like spaghetti, then you don't like me. The way my old apartments were laid out, the neighbor's bedroom was right next to my kitchen/dining room. One night, I hear them banging. Thin walls are thinner when the bed is hitting the wall. While I was fixing dinner, I just turned up the music and continued on with my life. 2 hours later, I was cleaning up, doing dishes, and generally tidying up when I heard the familiar thump 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 of banging. I think, good for them, and bag up the trash to take out. Thump thump thump. I open the door and take my bag of trash outside. As I'm walking out, I see the male half of my thumping neighbors walking in from his car. Walking back from the dumpster, I see a half naked dude running out of the neighbor's apartment. They moved shortly after that. I heard the couple that used to live next door go through divorce. Their yelling got progressively worse until I realized that their relationship really wasn't healthy. Once she mentioned that they had split up and that she was moving, I was like, yeah, I know. When I was in grad school, I lived below a family with several young kids. The mother was great and we got along well. She was always apologetic about kid noise, but I didn't really mind. The compromise that worked for us was that it was okay for me to play an amplified guitar, as long as it wasn't late, because her kids liked it and would dance to it when they could hear it. My ex-neighbors never let their kids leave the house and preferred to raise bubble children. The older son, 12 or 13, was pitifully fragile. One day I heard him crying because he shit on his own hands.